I came out about this about 10 years ago after Sandusky, and they were trying to honor Joe Pa at Penn State, who was a great coach and deserved all the accolades. But I'm of the opinion that if you can't be called the leader of men if you can't protect kids. And I felt that intrinsically. And I remember being at Sandusky's trial. I never admitted, I never came out about my own abuse. And I remember thinking how I just wanted to choke the guy to death. For me, it was a matter of I didn't want anybody to see that I was destroyed by something that happened to me. I didn't want to give the person that did that to me the satisfaction that they ruined my life. And I think that was a big motivating factor in many ways. And the other thing was, just the idea of when I came out about it was like, you're always worried about you're going to be looked at differently. And of course, I got a letter from a mother of one of the kids who was abused by Sandusky. And she wrote, I'll say this, Michelle, like she wrote in there, I know you wrote this in your article and I know you believe this, but I just want you to know it's not your fault. They didn't get the whole grooming thing. There were, like, you talk about nuance and subtleties, how someone talks you into something and you don't really know. And I was 13. I hadn't had any experience with girls. And all these curious things come into your head. And the rest of your life, you just feel like crap. You feel like shit because you think you did something and even though I had written that and I had been past all that, oh my God, when she wrote that, I broke down. I broke down. I mean, there's tears still on my computer screen from that.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Please hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We'd love to have you on board. We have a growing subscription audience and we love it. So keep it going. This is going to be a little intense today. Mike Wise is a writer. He's been a sports journalist all his life, wrote for the Washington Post, the New York Times, worked for ESPN. We crossed paths many times in our sports careers, but we never got to know each other. And then he posted something about me and it sort of caught my attention. It wasn't very nice, but I asked him to come on the podcast and talk. This person that I really don't know, but I thought this is what I wanted to do with this podcast. And that is get people who really, really, really disagree. And let me tell you, he disagrees with me on a lot and I him. Get them together. Let's talk face to face, not through our keyboards. And I think what you're about to hear will enlighten you on a lot of levels. We get into also the fact that he was, and this has been out there, he was sexually assaulted as a kid. It's an intense moment. Mark this one. You're going to want to listen and watch and get to know Mike Wise. And if you know him, I don't know if you know him like this. Stay tuned. Well, Mike Wise, let's be fully transparent. You and I chatted on the phone over the weekend, and
Yes,
we had a good conversation. I was actually surprised that you picked up. When you saw the area code, we don't need to mention it, did you have any idea who was calling you?
I didn't, but someone told me where you lived, sort of,
okay.
the state in which you lived, and I thought, this could be her. And I thought, you know what? Who would I be to not pick up Michele Tafoya's call?
Well, that was very kind of you. And then we had a good chat. And this is the thing. I think that you and I have probably crossed paths at events. You covered the NBA for a long time. I covered the NBA for a long time. We both covered sports for a long time. But really, we don't know each other well. And so this is kind of an interesting setup. You've got a following of people on your Facebook and Twitter who really don't like me, and that's okay. But it reminded me why I stopped reading comments. When I started reading these comments again, I thought, this is why I don't read comments, because I don't know who these people are. I can't give them the power over my emotions to, slam me like this. But you and I agreed we're not here for a cage match. So that might disappoint some people. Are you okay with that? Well, I love my friends at besthotgrill.com, and they make the Solaire infrared grill, which is incredible. So declare your independence this July from the low heat, low power gas grills, which in the course of grilling events wear out every couple of years. Secure your rights to juicy steaks, succulent chicken, and moist fish, as well as healthy grilled veggies. Pursue grilling happiness with the purchase of a USA-made hot, fast Solaire infrared gas grill. Solaire is perfect for today's busy lifestyle, securing its powers from the efficient direct heat of the Solaire infrared burner, which reaches 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes to lock in the juices and flavors and grill food faster. All stainless steel and welded construction. It is self-evident that Solaire could be the last grill you will ever buy. Making grilling great again with Solaire infrared grills. Learn more about these amazing USA-made grills at besthotgrill.com. 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 You and I agreed we're not here for a cage match. So that might disappoint some people. Are you okay with that?
I think in this environment, it's probably for the best.
Let's talk about this environment, what we're
Yeah.
talking about, because I heard someone put it this way today. Twitter is Fight Club for people who don't want to get hit. Social media has put us in this environment where every human being on the planet has the ability to yell at every other single human being on the planet. What do you think has been the net of that? Positive, negative, neutral? What do you think?
It's a great question. I think that the best thing about the internet, Twitter, social media is that everyone has a platform.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get a moment where someone has stole something or assaulted someone, whether it be law enforcement or other. And there are a lot of citizen journalists out there who do a great job.
Yeah.
The drawback is everyone has a platform, and not everybody should be speaking publicly. Their thoughts should not be out there publicly. I get into this all the time with people. I'm in the press. Your whole career and my whole career has been about the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that there has to be some responsibility where, hate speech shouldn't be disguised as free speech. And I think a lot of times we get to a point where you can say anything now. We've got keyboard courage. We all sit behind our laptops. I called you a fraud on the internet because of something. I didn't know you. It felt very like, she's not going to read this. My followers will see it. And yet, I might have a lot of different feelings about you, your career, and what to do, but you're not a fraud. So I took it down. And I thought,
thanks.
it just didn't. It was juvenile in the moment, and it's what you're allowed to be 12 years old on the internet too much.
Yes.
Yes. But I did have, there was some questions for me, and I know you've got your own, that, I have a lot of friends that I've had over the years in the industry, and some of them have sort of turned their back on the idea of any kind of legacy media. It's too liberal for them. It's too progressive. And they've gone to this world of one of the people that it almost hurt me in some ways. People think, it can't because he's just such a rotten guy. Jason Whitlock. Jason Whitlock helped bring me to ESPN. And people wouldn't even think about this now. But Jason Whitlock at a time, one of the beats on the Undefeated, the race culture sports site at ESPN, was going to be covering LeBron, not the player, Michelle, but the person, and how this guy was trying to project himself as the next Muhammad Ali, and what that social conscience, that renaissance of social conscience meant for athletes in general. And it was like this great idea. Jason Whitlock is so far away from that now. He's gone on to some conservative show, pundit show, and I never really got to conversation with him about it because he got upset about a podcast I had him on, and we haven't spoken. But I wondered if he did that for, like, he saw a revenue of, say, disenfranchised, angry white people out there, that there was a revenue stream for him that he thought he could take advantage of, or did he really have convictions about that? And that's where I guess those are some of my questions about some of the people. Sage Steele. I love Sage Steele. When we worked together in DC, we got to know each other. We talked about family. And then all of a sudden, and I haven't had a bad conversation with her. There was just some things where I just go, oh man, am I just too much of a leftist social engineer? Or am I upset enough about where Sage Steele has gone politically, personally, that I just can't have a relationship with her anymore? So I guess that's where I'm at.
Well, and I certainly understand you maybe not wanting to have a relationship with her anymore. Although I think it's really sad, and not just about you two. And
Yeah.
look, I have family members, and that we've had to find areas of common ground outside of stuff that I'd really love to talk about, but we it gets us into trouble when we go there. And so we just talk about our kids, and we talk about baseball, and we talk about sports. And I think if we're able to do that on a kind of a massive scale, I think that would be great. I think it's fine if you want to unfollow Sage Steele. But I guess I don't know why you have to publicly drag her. I know Sage a little bit, and I think she is convicted. She's deep in her faith. She believes firmly that biological men should not compete in women's sports. She's about to get married again. She has kids. She's a conservative. Her whole family is conservative. So is there a lane in there for you two to remain friends? Some of the stories that we tell on this podcast could keep you awake at night, but here's what you can do to help. It's called Sleep Cream, CREME.com. It's an all-natural CBD-based topical that you put right on your skin at bedtime. I usually put it on the insides of my forearms, maybe the bottoms of my feet, and they smell fantastic. While the lavender is my favorite, they have a new rose-scented one out that is Sleep Cream Rose. It's awesome. But here's the best part. It works. And if it doesn't work for you, just let them know, and they'll give you your money back within the first 30 days. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. Sleep Cream, CREME.com. Use the code HOMERUN at checkout to get free standard shipping on your first order. That's the code HOMERUN at checkout for free standard shipping on your first order. If you want to sleep better, use what I use. That is Sleep Cream. Sleep, CREME.com, sleepcream.com. Is there a lane in there for you two to remain friends?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't close,
Right.
But it was more. I felt like it was more than a friend in the business. You meet people in a press box or on the field, and you have sort of chit chat, brainlessly chit chat like you would on a TV set with the weather guy. But this seemed like it was more, and so I'm sure you're right. If you and I started for common ground, and all of our values and opinions were different, you and I could say, Michele, we would do anything in this world to protect our kids and our family and have them be safe and in a good environment that they feel supported and loved. Boom. That starts it. Whatever American hates another American, that could start where we're going. And then we could do building blocks from there. Yeah, do you like Vladimir Putin? Not really. Well, let's go when we can keep going.
Right.
But you're right. I guess my thing is, it wasn't that I drug her. I felt sad about it because she posted this picture of Roseanne Barr and called her a brilliant, brave icon. And there are a lot of things I could call Roseanne Barr without being derogatory about her looks or her intellect or her political beliefs. I say, yeah, she's a successful comedian. She's made she made a hell of a lot more money than Tom Arnold, her ex-husband. She's done a lot. She's done a lot and made a lot of people laugh. but she's also dressed up like Adolf Hitler. She's also had a lot of anti-Semitic tropes out there, and she happens to be Jewish, which is funny. But I didn't get like I if you're gonna hoist somebody up, I don't know. I don't know if she was the person, and I guess that's it.
And you are certainly entitled to that opinion. Just, I think, as Sage is entitled to her opinion. I
You're
guess
right.
she spent time with her on a podcast, I think, is how they got to know each other. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, this is the issue of the day for me. It's like we're so divided in this country, and it's sad. It's and I think a lot of it is caused, quite frankly, by outside forces. I mean, I think there are tons of bots and fake accounts that are purely exist to divide us. People have said this 1,000 million times. That's not a real number. I know, folks. I know. But people have said it over and over again. The best way to make America fail is from within. This country has so much going for it. We're not ignoring mistakes. I don't know how often we need to drag ourselves because we keep trying to improve. But yeah, if you want to destroy America, destroy it from within. And there have been philosophers out of the Soviet Union who have said, here's how they're going to do it, folks. They're going to turn you against one another. They're going to create chaos in America. And eventually you're all going to have a civil war and kill each other, and it'll be over. I think social media is sort of a breeding ground for some of this hatred, and it's everyone has to be careful, and both sides are guilty of it, right? And it's I just wonder how we do this. Like you said, you could start from a place of neutrality and have building blocks, but I just wonder what sense of kind of honor and duty we have as people of a really good, benevolent nation, chicken pox and all, scars and all,
Measles and all recently.
measles too, that we have this sort of essential duty, if we're not going to serve or we're not going to work in government, to kind of say, you know what, I'm just not going to be that person who drags other people, who spews other people. I've been guilty of it too. I don't claim innocence here.
Yeah.
But let me throw this one at you. There's a woman on Barstool, and she's described as a liberal host on Barstool.
That's like isn't that kind of an oxymoron?
I guess.
Liberal host Barstool.
Yeah, I don't know that there are many of them, but I'm trying to. I got her name is in my notes here, but Chicken Fry. She goes by Chicken Fry. Okay. And I don't know if you heard, and she has a gazillion followers, and she recently said, you know what? So many people voted in a way I didn't vote, and I can't just cut them all out of my life. I can't just not talk to people because they voted in a way I didn't vote. I mean, a lot of more people voted the way I didn't vote. Am I just going to stop talking to all of them? And I thought that was kind of a breakthrough moment for someone who's very much in the public eye. And let's be honest, it gets you kind of street cred if you hate this president.
Yeah, it does. It gets you street cred if you hate this president on the left. And it gets you street cred on the right if you say Biden is the worst president in U.S. history. And I think that I think you're going somewhere that's really productive and is going to completely lose your audience because we're not yelling at each other and we're not trying to own the libs or call the other side warped right wingers. We're basically having a conversation about it. But I think you're going somewhere that's really to a real solid place, which is where do you draw the line about being true to your school? Like when are we going to stop? Just like, for instance, I drew the line at Hunter Biden. I lean left. I don't lean left like Michael Moore. I don't lean left like I don't go harder to my left than James Harden. But I do lean left. I don't like militancy on either side. But
right.
The Hunter Biden thing, like the guy was a bad human being. Great, he's in rehab. Great, he's in recovery. I go to adult children of alcoholics. It saved my life years ago when I had all these problems. Great, you're in a support group. I think everybody should be in some way. But you did these things and they were awful. And you used your dad's name to win all the, you used this money. And you had and you treated people like crap. So and you did some criminal things. So you should go to jail. Okay? I'm okay with him going to jail. If it's not connected to his dad, great. Then his dad's fine. But so that for me was a red line. I just didn't like. I'm okay with that guy going to jail. I want to see more red lines on both sides, where people just go, okay. Like for instance, I don't know where you are. I did some research on it because I didn't want to be completely ignorant, but I also wanted to be surprised. The 2020 election. I don't understand how so many Americans still believe that it wasn't a real. It was a real election and it wasn't fixed.
I think Joe Biden won that election, and I think there is fraud in probably every election we've ever had. And I think what people worried about, and I'm not saying that they were right, but I think people were worried about all these changes made in the name of COVID, for mail-in ballots, drop-off ballots, all of these things. I think that's what people were afraid of. Now, you're right. I don't like militancy on either side either. You and I are in agreement there. I shouldn't say you're right or wrong. We agree on that. I don't like it. I don't like it when people go stretch it so far that they sound silly, So no, I accept the results of the 2020 election. I totally do. And in fact, when it happened, when he won, I said, okay, it can't be that bad. Sadly, I think the biggest mistake that his administration made was just allowing so many people to flood into this country at a time when we had COVID. They weren't screened, all of these things. And we have now some bad people in this country, some sleeper cells, whatever you want to call them. There are people who just got through because we didn't protect our country. And people can say a lot of things about it. I don't know if you follow a guy named Kaizen, Kaizen. He goes by the name That's Kaizen on X. And
I hate myself because I'm still in dad world. My kids are kind of young, so there's days when like I can't get Teen Titans Go off the freaking TV. I feel like I'm in dad world.
Dad world is the right place to be.
You're right.
But the only reason I bring this guy up is because he talks about having nuance in arguments. Like what you're talking about here is people who are just like you said, they dig in their heels in their school's schoolyard and they throw sand, and it's an ugly sandbox we're playing in sometimes. And I think you're very, very wise to be in dad world. That's the world that truly matters.
But I want to hear Kaizen. What's Kaizen's deal?
Kaizen's deal is let's have some nuance. Like he said, like for instance, he's black guy, and he said, we're focusing on the fact that the countries south of us those people tend to be people of color. And they are the ones closest to us in proximity. So you're suggesting that we're against letting these people in because of the color of their skin. We're forgetting the fact that the color of their skin has to do with the proximity to them of our nation. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin. That's kind of an accident of happenstance. And it was a really nuanced argument that he made. I saw him on Piers Morgan, and I thought that's really smart. That you're just using this as a cudgel. Oh, you hate them because they're brown. No, a lot of them happen to be brown because they're from countries where people are brown. By the way, I have an adopted daughter from Colombia, South America. So, I get what he was trying to say here. There was nuance, and I think we don't pursue nuance enough in a lot of our arguments.
This is good, and you're right. I would say the other nuance in that is there were a lot of people that came over. A lot of people were like, pardon my ignorance. What's your ethnic background?
My dad was Spanish. His family was a family of immigrants. My mom was Irish.
can we make an argument? I know it sounds like dragging ourselves a little bit, but can we make an argument that we're kind of all immigrants, unless we were like the First Nations people, or our ancestors were brought here forcefully against their will? If you're African American, if you're black and you have slave ancestry, and you're like I don't count you as somebody who settled the land.
Right.
But like most white people, well, people that look like me, I mean, we took the land of a people that was here already, and so in some ways we're all. I guess I would say the people coming across the border. There's a lot of good people who wanted to start a better life, and yeah, you're right. There are bad people. There are bad people in the country that have been
Yeah.
here for years,
No
and
question.
so I guess that would be part of my nuance. The other thing is, and I'll show. Like, this is a great subject to get to right now, because I want to hear your nuance on one of the reasons I think you left the sports journalism industry, and let's say you wanted to make a difference. You saw the country going a different way than you wanted it to, and you were one of the things you were especially upset about was critical race theory, CRT, that your kids were being taught they were either bad people, or that somehow, that why do we need to bring this all up? And is that correct or not?
Well, that was one of the things. I think the biggest one for me, and I can vividly remember moments of being on Sunday Night Football on the football field, and thinking I can do more good. I loved my career. I loved my Sunday night, Monday Night Football families. I was blessed, fortunate beyond words to have had that job. But for many years, and it really, for me, it started after 9/11. I felt like I had a lot to say. And when you sign up for the number one show in prime time, you need to sort of keep those opinions to yourself. You don't want to bring controversy to the show. And as a teammate, I signed up for that. And I said, fine, I'll be very careful about what I post and what I say and all of that. And it got to the point where I had friends with similar or different views than mine who didn't feel comfortable expressing their own views on because they might get fired, they might lose a friend, whatever. And and this is where First Amendment, free speech, all that stuff. I was like, what in the hell? People are afraid to talk. And I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to lose anymore. I cancel me. I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to speak for people who feel they can't. And I want to post opinions and say things and platform voices that don't think they should be or could be, otherwise. So yeah, critical race theory was being taught at my kids' school in a way that separated my kids from some of their friends. And I didn't like that at all. I think that it's a subject you can save for college or even high school, but it started in the lower school grades at my kids' school. And yeah, I saw what it did to some relationships, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't. So that's one thing I didn't take into account, that there might be some kids of color, especially triggered by some, like, wait a minute, this is what your people that as a parent, I haven't had to deal with that yet. My kids have grown up on MLK and white children and black children walking together, and that's all right. People were so militant, and I come from the opposite side, which is people were so militant about this that I felt like CRT was a bad acronym. I wanted it to be STAH, STA, shit that actually happened, and that we should teach that.
But you and I learned about that. Didn't you learn about it in school?
Yeah, I did. I did, and so I guess my thought was, what's wrong with teaching kids about the past, with the idea of, yeah, we did some awful things as a country,
right?
And that we need to move on and make sure we don't repeat that. To me, I don't know. my kids didn't, because I told them about slavery and what happened, my kids didn't all of a sudden have this white guilt of, oh
But
my
see,
God, what did we
which is
do?
great, which is
Like, well,
great. But
all they thought was, we got to be better people,
yeah,
Dad. That's all.
yeah.
It's like, I
What?
don't see what's wrong. So that to me,
Nothing is wrong with
why are
that.
people so angry about Why are people so angry about teaching what happened?
No, but there's a difference between teaching what happened and this CRT, which is if you're black, you're oppressed. Period. And
But
that's what
but people in that era were oppressed when they were black.
were. I agree with you. They were. But now you're teaching and you've seen it. And maybe you haven't. I've seen a lot of this
Okay.
where it's now. Okay, if you're black, you're automatically oppressed. If you're born white, you're born privileged. And I disagree with that. I know a lot of white people who are not privileged in any way. And to suggest that, someone who is white is automatically a privileged person, I think is incorrect. And to say that white people by their nature oppress people who don't look like them, I think is wrong. I've grown up in a family of very brown people, and we all found our way. So in my own life experience, and and then there are people who say, well, but you're an exception. Well, most successful people in the world over, are exceptional people. We can't all be the same. I can't write like you, Mike. I can't do your wife's job like she does it. We're not the same people with the same gifts. And so I don't think that we can expect everyone to have equal outcomes. And so anyway, that's kind of
Well, I was born with something you don't have, which is good looking privilege, Michelle. Look at
listen, I have terrible envy of your good looks.
You have good looking privilege. I don't.
No.
I look like Mr. Clean.
In my industry, no, I'm very low down the totem pole in the TV industry.
So I hated the term white privilege. Can I just say I couldn't stand it because I don't want to go into my own past and, oh my God, I was oppressed. But grew up my folks moved to Hawaii. My dad and stepmom moved to Hawaii when I was 12, lived in a very rural area. It was not nice Hawaii. This was like Samoans, Tongans. They called me a haole. There was violence. There was bigotry. It was the first time, and I think everybody should try it once in their life if they haven't, being on the other side of the fence, being a minority once in your life makes you put yourself in other people's shoes sometimes. Mm-hmm. When I got to the States and finished school and got into the workforce, I didn't feel like I was privileged based on my background, where I came from, how I had to put myself through school, all the things that happened to me as a kid when my parents were going through the 60s in the Bay Area. But here's the thing that I read this piece by Greg Popovich, of all people. Yeah. If you talk about a woke coach, he's like, the anti-woke folks are like, get Pop out of there. He's like, come on. But he wrote this piece. He said this thing, and he's like, we all have it. You don't understand it. It's not like you developed it. You were born with it. Everybody has their own, I guess, idea of what white privilege is. To me, it's as simple as I could be dressed in a beautiful suit and an immaculate tie with a nice leather briefcase, and I could be on the same corner in Central Park West as, say, Shermichael Singleton, conservative pundit, one of your guests recently, I believe.
Yes, he's coming back on. Yes.
He happens to be black. Mm-hmm. He could be wearing the same suit and the same leather briefcase, and I guarantee you, we could do a social experiment. The what would you do now on ABC? He will get passed by cab drivers that will pick me up. Like, I would say 7 of 10 would, if he was standing a block before me as a finely dressed black man, he would get passed by and they'll pick me up because whatever, their own prejudices, whatever. But that to me is white privilege. I don't ever have to be denied a home loan and go, did they really not want me in their neighborhood? Like that. Now, it might have not been that. They might have actually did not have the financials as a black family to be in that neighborhood, but they always have to. But people of color, Hispanic, brown, Native people, they always have to ask themselves that question. And we don't. I don't ever wonder if I go into a restaurant, you gave me the damn table by the kitchen. You gave us the crappy table, and all the nice people, all the people of color are sitting out here in the beautiful spots with the shot by the window, and they've got nice, and they got a better service. I never have to ask myself that question. I think a lot of black and brown people still do in this country. I don't think it's endemic, but when people say white privilege, to me, it's as easy as I'm looked at differently. Less people cross the street when I'm walking there late at night than they would if you're black or brown. That's in my experience.
Well,
That's
it's
my. I'm
interesting,
not
and
going to
I
say.
would
I'm
love to
going to
see
say
that.
you need to. If I say you need to understand this, then I'm the guy who, like my wife always. Every time I say to my wife, you need to understand me, and you do what you do, and she goes, and so do you. And then I go, oh, wait a minute. I need to say my experience because I'll just piss her off and we'll go downhill.
It would be an interesting social experiment. I do think that was probably true at one time in this country. I'm not convinced it's still true today, but I could be wrong.
Really?
I could be wrong. And
Okay.
I talked to a lot of people on this podcast, a lot of people of color. Sure, Michael, one of them. And
Yeah.
they don't agree with that assessment. So it's, but all I have is the experience of a kid who, grew up with Orlando Antonino Tafoya as my dad and was made fun of for other reasons, and was made fun of because I was a chunky kid and all those things.
Hmm.
I think everyone can claim some sort of, we all wear backpacks weighted down with stuff from our past, all of us.
Our affinity groups.
And the affinity groups and all. I guess I'm just one of those people who decided, like, when all the people said to me, oh, you're a woman in a man's world. And I'm like, I'm a journalist in a journalist's world. I'm not going to put that chip on my shoulder, but I made that choice. And I met other women who didn't make that choice. They decided to look for offenses where there weren't any. And so that's the stoic in me. And I'm still practicing hard at having that stoic viewpoint of the world, that if you choose not to be offended, you're not offended. So that's kind of the direction that I come from. And that's been my experience. I want to get to one other thing, because I learned this about you, and it rips at my heart, and it's interesting, and I hope it's okay. And I know you've gone public with this before, that
it's fine.
You were the victim of sexual abuse. And
Yes.
let me tell you something. I remember covering a bowl game in Arizona, and it was Penn State. And I remember walking in the hallways of this hotel. This was a long time ago, Mike. So and here came Jerry Sandusky with his wife, and they had one or two young boys with them. It's only clear to me in hindsight, obviously, but someone on our crew said, oh, Jerry has this great foundation, and he brings kids with him on the road and to give them experiences. And I look back on that moment and I get sick to my stomach. And because we all just believe that Jerry Sandusky was this nice, benevolent coach who was putting his arms around kids and trying to help lift them up. And we now know that wasn't the case. And I know it hit you particularly hard. Yeah. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to say maybe how you've admitted to, really having issues during your life. And I think it's amazing that you've come through all of that.
Yeah.
Just as you reflect now on those experiences in your life, how do you explain overcoming that?
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think it is important. For me, I had an uncle that sexually abused me when I was 13. There were family members who didn't encourage it, but some of them knew that he'd had a history of this, and they just figured that, oh well, he's, he would never do that to his own nephew. But I came out about this about 10 years ago after Sandusky, and they were trying to honor Joe Pa at Penn State, who was a great coach, and deserved all the accolades. But I'm of the opinion that if you can't be called the leader of men if you can't protect kids. And I felt that intrinsically. And I remember being at Sandusky's trial. I never admitted, I never came out about my own abuse. And I remember thinking how I just wanted to choke the guy to death as I'm watching him getting sentenced, and these kids who are now men, adult survivors of sexual abuse, giving their witness impact statements. And so for me, it was, and I think everybody's different. Some people go downhill. For me, it was a matter of I didn't want anybody to see that I was destroyed by something that happened to me. I didn't want to give the person that did that to me the satisfaction that they ruined my life. And I think that was a big motivating factor in many ways. And the other thing was, just the idea of when I came out about it was like, you're always worried about you're going to be looked at differently. And of course, I got a letter from a mother of one of the kids who was abused by Sandusky. Wow. And it just, she wrote, I'll say this, Michelle, like she wrote in there, I know you wrote this in your article and I know you believe this, but I just want you to know it's not your fault. And I know that a lot of, especially men, if you look at the Ohio State story, a guy I know, Michael DeSabato, came out about he was one of the main whistleblowers against this Dr. Richard Strauss at Ohio State that did this to all these wrestlers. And they said, how can grown men, 18 years old, not beat the hell out of a guy that tries to touch him? Well, they didn't get the whole grooming thing. There were, like, you talk about nuance and subtleties, how someone talks you into something and you don't really know. And I was 13. I hadn't had any experience with girls. And all these curious things come into your head. And the rest of your life, you just feel like crap. You feel like shit because you think you did something and even though I had written that and I had been past all that, oh my God, when she wrote that, I broke down. I broke down. I mean, there's tears still on my computer screen from that. And I guess, and to, I guess we both did our research because I saw somewhere where you would battle an eating disorder. Mm-hmm. And I thought the same thing, like, you know what? I so want to go off on Michele Tafoya for some podcast she did or some joke she did about this. And, and she completely owned the libs here. I can't deal with this. And then I read this about you and all of a sudden you're not Michele Tafoya, the person who has different political views than me or opinions. You're a person that you dealt with something that destroyed a lot of people, and you overcame it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about that because that's the kind of stuff that connects us, right?
It is. But before if it's okay if I ask you this, when she wrote you that letter,
yeah,
and said it's not your fault. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I do. I do now. It took me a while, but I do.
I hope to God you do.
Thank you.
I
yeah. No,
I truly do. I can't think of anything more despicable.
Yeah.
I can't. And I'm with you about children.
Yeah.
And now particularly you have your own kids and I have mine. And I remember standing over my infant son, and we adopted our daughter because we had so many issues. Worse than the anorexia was the infertility. I'll tell you that. As emotionally, it was something I would never wish on anyone. But as I stood over my son one time on his changing table, just cooing him, and I remember thinking, how can any human being hurt a child? Ugh. Like I can't get my head around that. And it makes me think, okay, the people that do this clearly have a disconnected wire, or there's a level of evil that's in the world that we need to accept is in the world. But I'm convinced that you do believe it because of how emotional you got. And I hope to God you do.
Thank you.
I do.
Thank you.
My God.
I think it's just as important that you showed people. There's a lot of people that deal with anorexia out there,
Mm.
especially people in the TV business,
Yeah.
where you need to take those pounds off you because the camera adds 10 pounds. Like, it's not healthy.
No, I know.
And there's a lot of people who they go over the ledge with that stuff. And so yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you talk about people that should be on, alligator Alcatraz.
Yep.
Other than undocumented people, I would rather see pedophiles.
I am
Uh,
with you.
you know,
Let's put them all there. Let's, yeah,
you know,
they are not minor attracted persons,
you know,
as some people want us to believe. It's deviant, it's evil. A child is the most precious, innocent thing. And you're right. If you can't protect them, whew,
who are you?
it's really tough to
Well,
get your head around that story. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say that one of the things I'm really convicted about now, and you talk about if someone hired me today to cover an NBA team, I'd just say, put a gun to my head. I loved it. I would never tell anybody right now that, I didn't have one of the best lives and go to all these the Olympics and all the
Yeah.
great, wonderful things we got to do. But at some point, you have kids, you want to make a difference. And so one of the things I want to the bottom line is, yeah, we have these evil people, but they have enablers.
Yeah, they
Whether
do.
it's
Yeah.
whether it's R. Kelly, whether it's Harvey Weinstein, like, there are people that help them do the things they did,
Hmm.
and those people need to be held accountable. I think California now has a reporting law where even if you're a family member, if it's found out that you knew that your family member was sexually abusing kids or had done something really untoward and you did not report it, you go to jail for up to a year as a misdemeanor crime for not
Wow.
reporting.
Yeah.
Every state should have that law. I think Rachel Denhollander, one of the women in the Larry Nassar case, she was one of the main whistleblowers for the Michigan State gymnasts. She basically went to Congress, and I believe there's a law now in Michigan that you go to jail for not being a reporter for a certain time if you're convicted of it, and that law has to become a national law in my book.
Yeah, you're basically, you're an accomplice to a crime, and
Yeah.
yeah, that should not be tolerated. So the bottom line of this interview is you're a very different person than I expected, and I like you, Mike. So the person that I see sitting across from me through this virtual reality is not the person I see online. I and I know not people are not going to get what they wanted out of this podcast, like us just mauling each other over
Um,
ideology. But I don't care, because honest to God, when I first started this podcast, I knew it wasn't going to be sexy. I wasn't going to, but I want people to understand that people with differing viewpoints can talk and actually admire other parts of, so we differ on some stuff that shouldn't come between this entire country. I don't think it used to be this way. I don't know, but I don't
no, it
like where we are
wasn't.
now. Yeah.
It wasn't. I mean, we were about the same age. It
Yeah.
wasn't, and I feel like you're right. And I don't. And there's times when I've seen clips that are put up of you, and I go, God dang it, I don't believe that, and I want to talk to her about it. But I think what Misty, your producer, has to do is basically edit this down to all the nice parts, and we have another one where we just go off on each other for like a good half hour, and we just it's just like we just go on, and I basically say stuff like, I can't believe they're teaching about heterosexuality in school. And you know what? I'm worried if my kids see a scene, they might be straight forever. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. What are we going to do with that, Michelle? So, but I guess what I'm saying, no, you're right. I would leave you with this, and anybody who watches this, is that we talk about all these acronyms, CRT. Here's a great acronym: HALT. Someone told me this, believe it or not, from that men's intimacy and relationship group a long time. He looks at me and he says, "Hey, I saw what you wrote about someone the other day on the internet." He goes, and it was funny because the guy that wrote you something really nasty, you came back with a great line. He goes, and I know it was good for you. He goes, but the next time you're going to write something like that, remember the acronym HALT. halt, HALT. I go, what? And he goes, if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, or all three or two, get off the internet immediately. like if we can all remember halt, because a lot of times when we're tweeting and we're writing these things, we're already in a
mad.
pissed off mood about our
Yeah.
spouse or our kids or
Yeah.
something else, and and it comes out sideways, and the
Yeah.
internet is it's basically a vessel for all our ugliness.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You know?
And it can be used for so much good. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen it bring people together in some ways. So, all right, well, I'm going to halt from now on. I'm going to write that note on a little Post-it and put it on all my devices. And
Yeah.
you know, the other letter to add to that would be, because I thought in somewhere you were going to get one of those letters was drunk, but you don't drink and post. That should be another one.
That's another one. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, I'm so glad we did this.
Me too, Michelle.
I really am. I wish you and your family nothing but happiness and joy and love. And wow, Panama, man, that is freaking cool.
Back at you. And you know what you made me do today?
What's
you
that?
made me reach out to Sage. I'm going to send her a note and say, we might be complete opposite ends of the spectrum. You might not respect what I say or do in regard to these things. I might, but we still live in the same country, and you got kids and I got kids, and what we can agree to disagree on stuff.
We're all humans, and we need each other.
Yeah.
We really need each other. Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone, that this turned into a warm and fuzzy. But I also,
you got to go back to hating people. Our personal brands are gonna go downhill after this.
They're going to shit. But you know what? That's okay with me. I want to thank you also for sharing such an intimate part of your life. I know I wouldn't have gone there had you not done it prior. So and I truly I have this palpable sense in my heart right now for you about that. So, Mike, well, let's do it again.
That sounds great, Michelle.
That sounds great. I say at the end of every podcast, be brave and do good. I think Mike did both of those things by agreeing to chat with me today. And so there we go. We'll see you next time, everyone. Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.